You gotta have, you gotta have, you gotta have knowledge for life.
And we are here with Dr. Rijli Abdul Muhammad, and he is the student minister of agriculture of the Nation of Islam, a member of the NOI research group, the Muhammad's farm manager, husband of Sister Anna Mukmin Muhammad, and author of 6 books, one of which we're going to be talking about today, titled I Will Not Apologize. Assalamu alaikum, Dr. Ridgely.
Walaikum salam, sir.
Thank you once again for coming on to this program to talk about this topic that is in the news today about this recent discovery. It says a team of researchers using advanced radar technology claims to have discovered a vast underground city beneath the pyramids in Egypt, accessible by long vertical shafts. And so, can you provide us any overview or insight into what you believe they discovered under the pyramids?
Let me start off by saying this. In the name of Allah, who came in the person of a man, Master Farad Muhammad, and raised up and taught another man, the Honorable Elijah Muhammad, who taught Minister Farrakhan. I joined the Nation of Islam underneath the voice of Minister Farrakhan in New York in 1971, and moved immediately back to North Carolina to finish my processing. And then I really got into the teaching of the Honorable Elijah Muhammad, and I was a undergraduate student in economics at Columbia University. When I went back to North Carolina, I tried architectural engineering for a while, but then when I found out that I had to be an apprentice for 4 or 5 years in a room drawing lines all day long, and I just couldn't see myself doing that. But Abdul Elijah Muhammad said we need engineers and we need farmers. So I said, okay, I like being outside. I know a little bit about gardening. So, okay, I'll go into agricultural economics. Since I was already into economics, so I go into agricultural economics. And Abdul Elijah Muhammad said that agriculture is the root of civilization. So all that kind of came together because of another hobby I had. And that is, it started in 1969. I went to the Schoenberg Institute Library to study Africa and ancient Egypt while I was in prep school. While there, I read into books about the Great Pyramid. And they were talking the Great Pyramid had 2.5 million stones. And it was like each stone weighed 2 to 4 tons, or 2.5 tons. That's 5,000 pounds. There was some even bigger than that. And it was laid out in the square of the bottom was a perfect circle whose diameter was the height of the pyramids. So you can circle the base, and the diameter of that circle was the height of the pyramid of 481 feet. There are more other pi is also identified in the structure. And Honorable Elijah Muhammad said that at one time we did things right and exact. So I said, now how can we build something like that right and exact, and then they tell me that it was made for a dead man? It didn't make any sense. How can some people be so smart and work so hard to build something for a dead man?
Right.
Well, actually, I found later on that was partially correct. They didn't build it for a dead man. They built it for a dead people, and put the knowledge that the people needed to have in the building and the buildings around it in the Nile Valley itself, because they knew one day an enemy would come and would deface our writing. They would hide everything they could, destroy what they could, steal it, and then claim it, and then destroy it. So they're still looking for the Hall of Record. They believe that there's some hole somewhere that has all this information they've been trying to find, but we were able to hide. The Honorable Elijah Muhammad said, we hid our wisdom beneath the sands, in the jungles, underneath the water. So all of this now, I'm trying to piece together what's going on. And one day in 1984, while I was at Michigan State working on my PhD in agricultural economics, I got back into studying ancient Egypt while I was there, because they had a big library, and I just studied as much as I can. And I couldn't understand how one man, Imhotep, who's on the cover of my book, I Will Apologize, The Resurrection of the Master Architect. Here's Imhotep, the big head scientist. That's right, the big head scientist. And the Honorable Elijah Muhammad. Now, this man, Imhotep, was the father of medicine. He saved his country from a 7-year drought of the Nile, not rising to its proper level, and there was a famine, 7-year drought. And then he was the builder of the first stone pyramids. I said, now how can one man be the master of all of those things? There's got to be a commonality, something where it's got to connect. See, I'm a farmer. I'm studying agricultural civilization, and I know one thing: in a desert, I put it on my Facebook page. I asked them the question: what's the most important resource in a desert? And they came up with gold. Shut up. Water.
Right.
Okay. But people who live in cities, who turn their tap water on and drink it, they don't think about the importance of water. They don't know where that water comes from. Don't even have a clue, no an idea to think, search, find out. And as a farmer, one thing you got to have for your crop is water.
Right.
Sunshine and water and minerals, fertilizer. But the main thing is water. So it is very political what my hobby has turned into. I didn't know it at the time. But this idea of that we built the pyramids for a dead man was something they made up to. One thing about black
Back
folks,
all this up. Let's get the hell out of here.
Right.
Tell your mama to get out
So
the
by saying that
bathroom
the
and we got to
pyramid
go.
was built for a dead man, then we be scared to go inside the pyramid, to study the pyramid. We don't know what them people doing.
My daddy, boo.
This what they trying to, so they use science to keep us away from ourselves.
Right.
Now, the enemy does not want you to understand that your leaders in ancient times, not only were they black, but they were not self-centered. They were actually servants of the people, like our young brother, Ibrahim Traoré.
Right.
And you know a real leader when a real leader cares about farming and farmers. And one of the first things he has said that he would do is make his people self-sufficient when it comes to food. This is a real leader based upon the leaders that we had in ancient times when we were the gods of this planet. And it wasn't about sitting on some throne with somebody serving you. It was about doing that which was beneficial to the people and organizing the people to work together to build a paradise, heaven on earth. So now the Nile River, which we built, Matter of fact, it says that in Ezekiel, that's why God was mad with the Egyptians, because they claimed that the Nile was theirs. But guess what? The Nile was theirs because they built the Nile. That's it. And I will not apologize. I go through the geological proof that it was man-made.
Wow. Okay.
Okay. That's one of the things I have in my book. So here you have a concept that here it is, and they were built by slaves.
Right. That's what they tell us.
So that's the concept you have of working for a black king, was that you could be a slave, and it's all for his glory, nothing for you.
Also attached to that myth that they tell us that slaves built the pyramid, they also try to attach the pyramid building to those who are calling themselves Jews today, that they were the individuals who built that pyramid and that they were in bondage under a pharaoh. Can you go into that?
Two things. Anwar Sadat told one of those
Begin, I think it's
Menachem Begin,
yes, sir,
to his face, that y'all didn't build no pyramids. As a matter of fact, we never enslaved you. Now, the proof that they did not build the pyramids is that there's no mention of the pyramids in the Bible. This is their holy book, which claims to go back in history all the way to the beginning when the earth was built in 6 days, 6,000 years ago. And they were enslaved in Egypt for 400 years, they say.
right.
But in the Bible, they never mentioned the pyramid, not one, not the Sphinx either. We had over 72 pyramids and 3 real big ones right there at modern day Cairo. You were there for 400 years and you didn't see that? Somebody lying. You were not there. And when you found out about what we had, you had to lie about it because you couldn't hide the fact that it's there. Then you go try to take it as though you did it, but you didn't know about it in your book that you wrote. Supposedly you got it from God. And evidently he didn't see it either. And then you didn't tell you about it. And you weren't there to see it yourself. So somebody's lying.
Right. And so this lie exposes them, and it exposes that whole myth.
They're going to try to say that the pyramids are underwater because the Khafra pyramid, you have the limestone topping, and then it after that it breaks down and there's no more limestone. It's just, I mean, not the covering. It's not smooth now. You just see the blocks. And history, it's already been stated that when the Arabs came over to Egypt, they took the outer facing off of the pyramids to use to build their mosques,
right,
and other structures. They actually stripped the outer limestone smooth casings off of it. Nature didn't do that. People did that.
Right.
And they also did that because there were writings on the outside of the Great Pyramid, and they considered that shirk. They considered that devil worshippers. So they destroyed that. All of this was done to the people who call themselves Jews have been impersonating. Yes, Abraham was given a promise that after 400 years of his people being enslaved in a land that was not their own and being punished, being afflicted is the word. For 400 years, then God would come and bring them out. Now, they didn't do that, the Jews.
right,
But in the secret relationship between blacks and Jews is brought out very clearly that they, the Jews, were involved in bringing us over here to put us in slavery. And by golly, they have fulfilled the prophecy that they tried to steal.
Right, right. We are the ones who have been in bondage for 400 years. Literally 400 years we've been here in bondage and captive.
Thanks to them.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, if it wasn't for them, now see, this is how God shows who is smart and who think they smart. I'm gonna tell you what you're gonna do, and I'm gonna tell you what my people are gonna do, and I'm gonna tell you what I'm gonna do. And I'm gonna sit back for 6,000 years and let you run your game, see how you can do. So what did he do? He allowed them to fix up the book. Honorable Elijah Muhammad said, we believe in the truth of the Bible, but it has been tampered with, added to, and taken away.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, to ensnare the people. But God say, go ahead, do it. And then he has the ones who think they stole the identity of God's chosen, the seed of Abraham. He could use them to bring us over here and then fulfill the prophecy. And then he himself come in 1930 and reveal himself to the Honorable Elijah Muhammad and to the world as being the Messiah, the Mahdi, the Christ. But all of this, the Bible is allegorical. The Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan said the messenger taught him that 25% of the Bible is history and 75% of it is prophecy.
Right.
And the part that they call history is really prophecy. Okay? And they wrote the prophecy trying to hide it as history, trying to make up history, and actually was making up the future and didn't know it. This is how Allah use your own brain of his own enemy.
Yes.
To write his own death warrant. So you have Asia and Africa as one unit.
Right.
And then Kemet, Egypt, was the center and the capital where you would send your children to study in 42 different universities. They call them, the white man calls them temples. We called them Meduneta, where you study the Meduneta, where you study the words of God. And the words of God are his creation, are the things that he created that we can use to survive in his world and make a heaven out of it using science and technology. But you have to have the science. The enemy didn't understand these netters as principles of nature. They call them gods, that we worship the gods. We were polytheists. No. Yeah. We studied God through his attributes.
Right.
Okay. And gave names to the things that had power in his universe so that we can, using the information and the knowledge, we can manipulate in his universe and make it even better for us as his children, the children of God. The Medunetters, the words of God, and Meru was a stick. The symbol for it was a stick. Because that's one of the first things that a human or any creature pick up as an instrument is a stick. Even crows can take a twig and get food out of a cage. That's a stick. That's a word. That's a thought. That's taking something from one function to another function. Functional thinking. That's where we were. Functional thinkers. And me as a farmer, I'm doing this all the time.
Right.
Okay. But when they put you in the cities, then you disconnected from nature. You disconnected from your hands. You disconnected from the earth. And you're sitting around waiting for somebody to tell you what it is. And they lie to you. You stuck in an alternate universe that does not exist because you've been lied to. You're in the matrix. A matrix of lies and misinformation.
Right.
And therefore, you can't beat the enemy because he's at the gate waiting on you coming through the corridor that he set up for you to come through because you believe in what he told you to believe. And therefore, he can continue to beat you and control you because you believe what he told you to believe. You don't see for yourself. But the Honorable Elijah Muhammad gives us eyes to see for ourselves and think for ourselves and to question everything that we see.
And so can you talk a little bit about us burying our technology under, as you were saying in the beginning, why did we bury our technology under the sand, in the jungles, and so forth?
we birthed the technology from the new creature that we was going to make.
Mm-hmm.
Yaqub, going back to the story about Israel. Okay. The Honorable Elijah Muhammad said that story of Jacob is really Yaqub. And when Jacob talks, he actually stole his uncle's sheep by putting some rods in front of them at the trough where they were drinking, and he made some of them speckled and spotted. And then he took the speckled and spotted ones and gave his uncle the other part. The Honorable Elijah Muhammad said that was this grafting of people. And but you start off with one color, but in the end of the grafting process, you come out with another color. The color they started off with was the original people, black.
Right.
What they wound up with is white. The Honorable Elijah Muhammad said that Master Farad Muhammad taught him that it took 200 years to graft us using controlled birth, controlled marriages, to first get rid of all the jet black that have nothing but a nation of brown. Then mating them the lighter to the lighter to get past brown to yellow, and then the lighter to the lighter to get past yellow to white. And then the white they call it Israel. All white people are Israel.
They fall under that name.
All white people are Israel because they're made from that grafting process. There are no white people here except albinos, black people, albinos, that's a disease. There's no race of white people outside of the ones that Yaqub made, or Jacob made through the grafting process. So why do we make white people? Because inside of the black man, Yaqub found out that there was another man. He called it the brown germ. So you have the black germ and the brown germ. And he found that this brown germ causes problems. When the brown germ is dominant, it's recessive. But when it dominates you, it has you to do things selfishly for your individual self and not think about anybody else but yourself. Okay. This is why when God told Iblis to bow down to what he was going to create, Iblis said, I can't bow down to flesh, to this man of dust, because I am better. I am better. And this is what people who call themselves Jews today say to the world. I am better. My blood is better. I am the chosen of God. 1,000 of you is not worth one of me.
And they call those who are non-Jews goyim.
That's right, cattle. Goyim means cattle. So they consider us cattle that they can use as you would use your cow, because they're better. And the only thing that makes you worth anything is to serve them. Now this is what they say publicly now.
It says here, you'll lend to the goyim.
Okay, I don't know that word.
Okay. And you won't borrow. You'll lend them the money. You rule over the goyim.
And upon you they won't rule.
Yeah.
These are all promises brought in the Torah that if you would keep the Torah, then
I guess I'm wondering, okay, I come from a humanistic background, not a religious background, but is that a moral thing?
What?
No, they'll want to, because they'll see you're such a great person. Like, for instance, you want to serve your country.
Okay.
It's not an avdus with a Jew is a different avdus from the American, black slave movement.
Okay.
It's not like
it's not we were slaves in Egypt. It's not that type of being whipped.
So that's it. Found you what you needed.
One has to treat a servant better than him.
Yeah. You saw it over here? I saw it, and now I'm getting a good explanation.
It's from Motzei Shabbos.
Sorry, I'll just Motzei Shabbat. Okay.
like as I told you before, as in the time of Shlomo Melech, the Goyim wanted to make peace with Shlomo Melech because they saw he was such a wise, great person. And
יעבדוך העמים. יעבדוך העמים. ישתחוו לחלומי. יעבדוך העמים. It says here, יעבדוך העמים. The lands will work for you. יעבדוך העמים. You see it?
Okay.
They want the whole world to bow to them because they are all that. But guess what, my friend? You just been tricked. You've been hoodwinked. You've been bamboozled. You brought us over here and made us fulfill the prophecy of Abraham.
Right.
And now it's the end of the 400 years. It's the end of your 6,000 years. And when it's all said and done, history will look back at this time and they will read how you blew it. You had a 6,000 year head start. And one man came in 1930 and blew your whole thing apart. The War of Armageddon, Mr. Farrakhan teaches us, started in 1930 when Master Farad Muhammad came and brought truth into America. Because before then, the whole world was believing in the Bible and its 6,000 years of existence, and there was nothing before 6,000 years.
Right.
Now they're digging up all types of stuff past the 6,000 years and want to take it even further back. That's why they're talking about now at the Great Pyramid, even though I said this in 1989 when I did my book, in 1988 when I did my book, and then I went over there and found what I was talking about. Now they want to say underneath the pyramid is some long tubes. They call them wells. But they won't use the word water. They're trying to say it's attached to some huge 80 meters by 40 meter box.
Right.
That's called an infiltration zone. Okay. You dig huge infiltration zone, meaning what? So the water that's in the rocks, it seeps through the rocks slowly, can accumulate into something that you could draw from. And if the pressure of that is enough, it can actually call it a geyser, a geyser that can come up above the ground as it shoots up into the air because of the water pressure. And that's how we built the pyramids, using that underground, using that water pressure. So they want to say that these were cities built by some aliens.
Right.
Thousands of years before the pyramids. Okay. Why can't you just accept that the most important thing in a desert is water? You can't accept that? Well, hold it. You know that. Because when Muammar Gaddafi built the great man-made river project, you blew it up.
Right.
Because he was using the underground water beneath his country to irrigate the crops and make Libya into an oasis. But you blew it up. Because you know the importance of water, but you don't teach us the importance of water. But our people knew the importance of water. But now you're gonna try to hide that and say it was built by. Now hold it, built under 600 feet, 700 feet underneath the ground. Hold on. Black people are not cave people.
Right.
We don't need to build no damn cities underneath the ground. We like the earth. We love the sun. All thing we need is some water. And some shade every now and then, but not live underground. That's you in the caves. But you're making up this lie because why? Number one, what Dr. Ridgely wrote in 1988, then again in 2003, is coming alive. Everybody is seeing this now. And you cannot allow for Black people to understand the power and the wisdom of their ancestors and understand that a man can figure this thing out from actually communicating with his ancestors. You don't want to deal with that. So you would rather give the credit to an alien, but it's more sinister than that. I'm not going to say how they're going to use this lie they are making up about some aliens. Okay, they're getting ready for a fake alien invasion. Evidently, whoever built the pyramids forgot they left some gold underneath there or something, and they're supposed to be coming back to get their wealth. Okay, they're setting this thing up. You saw what happened out there in New Jersey last year. they're setting this thing up for a fake alien invasion. And I guess Elon Musk and SpaceX is going to knock them down. I don't know. But again, they're setting it up because they got one big trick they're going to try to play on the world. I'm not going to tell you what it is because I got to let them do their thing. You know, Mr. Farrakhan, he don't be talking no more. Okay, because they be trying to figure out for him talking what to do next. Well, he ain't talking, and I ain't talking on certain things because you got to figure this out for yourself, white boy. You're supposed to be smart. You got to figure it out for yourself this time.
Yeah, have you heard of Operation Bluebeam?
For years, they have been planning this, and I've smelled something over the last couple of months. I can smell something in the air. They're spraying something in the air. They're actually making a screen, three-dimensional screen in the air, so they can project holograms in the air.
Yeah,
for the fake alien invasion. I can smell it. I have not been able to pinpoint exactly what it is, but it's something different that I've smelled ever except the last couple of months. So they're setting this thing up.
Yeah.
See, when the Africans did not take the shot, Mr. Farrakhan, July 4th, 2020, put the place down. October 16, 1995, then July 4th, 2020. Most important times in history. July 4th, 2020, Mr. Farrakhan told the Africans, do not take the shot. It's poison itself. Don't take the shot. Many Africans did not. Many African presidents were killed because they would not give that shots to their people. But the white man gave the shots to his own people, and their own people are dying from these shots. So now they got to start wars to hide the increased deaths that's caused by the shots. But when Mr. Farrakhan said, do not, now the whole system is falling apart. People don't want to take none of these shots.
Right.
COVID, they don't want to take none of the vaccine because they finally figured it out that it's through the vaccines that they've been culling the population. What the teachings do is allow you to sift through the lies that the enemy makes and sift through the science that's hidden in nature for you to study once your eyes have been opened. Okay? But don't persecute me because I follow the instructions. I study agriculture because he told me to. He told me to study the Nile Valley, and that's what I do. Because that's where we first built civilization, according to our teachings, was in Mecca and the Nile Valley. So I can't get to Mecca, but I can get to the Nile Valley. So that's my thing. Hopefully other brothers and sisters will study Mecca, in and around Mecca, and find more of the science there. But so happens the Nile has been available, and that's what I study. I ain't saying that I know it all, but I know a whole lot because there's a lot to learn. And I've been working on this since 1969. And then coming to the farm has been a great awakening of functional thinking. Things break down here all the time, and I got to figure out how to fix it because $125 an hour plus parts. Okay?
Right.
Plus parts. So you begin to think differently. And now we think a lot that there's more people in the Nation of Islam and outside the Nation of Islam, more black people now are actually going into farming.
Right.
That they're going into farming. When I started 30 years ago, 1995, black folks were not even cooking.
Yep.
There was McDefinite, Kentucky frying it. Okay. They were not cooking.
Yeah.
But now, thanks to COVID, that destroyed 40% of black businesses. And many of them were restaurants. And because of Trump, he's cutting back on all the programs that's been set up for integration. He's cutting back on that. Now black people are scared to death. All praises are due to Allah.
Yes.
They're scared to death to the point that they're striving to understand how to live.
Especially the young people.
And then soon they will learn how to eat to live. And they will learn how to live properly to live longer and better.
Absolutely.
We gonna be here. We gonna win.
Thank you so much, Dr. Ridgely. I really appreciate you coming on here and talking about this topic. And may
I'll
God
see you in the
continue to
picture.
bless you, and we'll talk soon. All right. Thank you, brothers and sisters, for tuning in. And this has been a very powerful conversation with Dr. Ridgely on the pyramids and what they really represent. Because as we know, no slaves built the pyramid. That is a mathematical impossibility. But they were a sign of the high technology that the Black man possesses, not had, but we still have it. And we have it in what they call UFOs, or I think they call them UAPs, because they couldn't continue to call them UFOs, unidentified flying objects, because they also recognize that they would go into the waters, into the oceans. And so they reclassified them as UAPs.
Elijah Muhammad started learning and teaching of this great wheel called the Mother Plane around 1932. 10 years later, in 1942, after the Japanese attacked Pearl Harbor, the temple, as it was called at that time, was raided by law enforcement officials under the guidance of the FBI. The Honorable Elijah Muhammad's home was also raided, and the teachings that Master Farad Muhammad had left with him were taken from the home and the temple. Later, he was questioned by the FBI on the drawing of the wheel and his writing about it that they had taken from the temple, and he explained to the government of the United States and to the FBI its aim and purpose, who made it, and why it is now above America. The Honorable Elijah Muhammad said it was a masterpiece of mechanics and engineering, and that nothing like this has ever been seen before. The Honorable Elijah Muhammad said it is the greatest military weapon ever developed in the annals of the history of Allah, God, and man in this universe.
So when you look at the pyramids, out in the front of the pyramid is a sphinx. I think the sphinx is called Abu How, right? That Napoleon aimed his cannons at, because he wanted to try to hide the identity of the original people by blowing off the nose, because it didn't look like a European face on the Sphinx. So we began to, as we saw this new man coming on our planet, we began to bury our technology. As Dr. Ridgely said, we buried our technology under the sand. We know how to make deserts. We buried our technology in the jungles. We buried our technology in the oceans. And every now and then you see that they will find some type of technology from the past that they believe shouldn't exist. Because what they failed to realize is that our past is not their past. Their past is a past where they were in the caves and hills of Europe, discovering fire, discovering a wheel. You see what I'm saying? We brought them out of the caves and hills of Europe because they were given an assignment to rule over the original people for 6,000 years. A rule that was contrary to the rule of the original man and the original woman. So the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan teaches us that we are in what is called a vacuum in our history. No light, no life, no power to the original man. A contrary man is ruling over us. And so the pyramid, really, what we have to do to understand that is look on the back of the dollar. On the back of the dollar, you see a pyramid. As Brother Tariq Nasheed points out, that America was built not by the white man, it was built by Black people. This whole economy, in less than 500 years, was built by and on the backs of Black people. America became a superpower because of 300 plus years of just not free servitude, but the theft of our intellectual power. A lot of the inventions that we see in America were stolen by slaves, so-called slaves, right? But we were slaves, because that's what it was prophesied, that we would go into bondage in a strange land among strange people, and that we would be inflicted for 400 years. And what's so perplexing to me is how Christian preachers can read that scripture and not see that it's talking about their people. They can read the whole Bible, which, if you overlaid all of the stories over the history of the Black man here in America, it would fit like a glove. You don't have any other people that can fit into the stories of what you read in the scriptures. Know of a surety that your seed will be brought into a strange land among strange people and afflicted for 400 years. We were brought into a strange land among very strange people, and we have been afflicted for 400 years. In the book of Daniel, it talks about their names being changed and their language being changed. Our names was changed. Our language was changed. It talks in the book of Joseph how he was sold into bondage by his own. We were sold into bondage by our own, and how he became second in power into in the land that he was sold as a slave. Black people, truth be told, we're second in power. It talks about in the book of Ezekiel, where you find dry bones in the valley of despair. What does dry bones mean? Dry bones is just symbolic that they were robbed of a knowledge of themselves. Malcolm, we hear him always say that we were robbed of our name, our language, our religion, our culture, right? That's dry. That's what dry bones means. Bones is the leftover of something that was once alive. But they weren't physically dead, but they were symbolically called dry bones. We're dry bones. We're not physically dead, but we're mentally dead and in need of a resurrection, as the Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad and the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan teach us. That the resurrection is not talking about people coming up out of the earth. The resurrection is talking about us regaining the knowledge of self. the knowledge of who we are and the knowledge of whose we are. We're not just some people walking around, but we are the people, the children of the Most High God. Our body is the real temple of God, not something that somebody built with sticks and stones. This is the real temple of God. And in this temple is God. So Jesus says, have you not heard that ye are all gods, children of the Most High God? Jesus said, greater is he that's within you than he that's in the world. Well, who is in you? It's God. And you are a manifestation of an aspect of God, that God wants you to fulfill some purpose. That's why you were born. And each and every one of us have a purpose, but it is the enemy who tries to rob you of that knowledge, who tries to say that you are, for instance, a illegitimate. Your very presence means that you're not illegitimate in the eyes of God. In the eyes of your enemy, who is an enemy of God, you might be illegitimate, but not in the eyes of the supreme being. You are legitimate regardless of what condition that you're in. You just need to regain that knowledge of yourself so that you can begin to understand your purpose, right? So we'll go ahead and wrap this on up. I want to thank you all for tuning in. And once again, I say, look on the back of that dollar. There's the pyramid right there. You know, and then on the other side, you have an eagle. And right above the eagle, you have the Star of David. Now, the Bible says that wherever the eagles are gathered together, there the dry bones will be. Well, the symbol of America and the symbol of most European nations is some type of bird. But the symbol of America for sure is an eagle. And like I said, right on the other side of the eagle is a pyramid. And down right at the foot of the pyramid is a plant. And the Masons know what that's all about. Just study the story of a man named Hiram Abiff, who was hit in the head by 3 Jewish ruffians. Jubilee, Jubilo, and Jubilum, I believe. And he was carried on a westerly course, buried in the north in a shallow grave. And the master builder, God, would go and search for him, because the others that eventually found him couldn't raise him out of the grave. They would try to raise him. That's the prophets. That's the civil rights leaders. They would try to raise him. He just slipped back into the grave. But it took the master builder with I think it's the tiger's paw or the eagle's claw, with a master grip that wouldn't slip. That's the most honorable Elijah Muhammad, a man with only the 4th grade, no more than a 4th grade education, raising up Malcolm, raising up Muhammad Ali, raising up the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan, who called 1 million black men in a time where the enemy was putting out propaganda like New Jack City and Boys in the Hood and Menace to Society, as the Honorable Minister Farrakhan said, if there's a menace to society, who is menace number one? See, you and I, we were made a menace, but there was one who made us a menace. So many of us who are walking around here committing crimes and just doing foul things, if they were able to read the label on our back, it would say made not in China. It would say made in America. So think about that, brothers and sisters, because it's time now for you and I to rise and to come out from under the ghost spell of the white man, the ghost spell of the white man, the West. They using all kind of psychological psyops and warfare on us. They control the music that comes into our community. That's not our music, and we're going to have a professor on to talk about our music and how our music was never used to promote ratchetness. Never. Our music was always to tell a story or to glorify God. Same thing with the dance. When we did a dance, it was never no ratchet, no twerking. It was to glorify God, or it was to get us ready for war. If you all ever get a chance to watch that movie Shaka Zulu, when them Europeans heard them drums, it terrorized them. We need to recapture our drums. Right now, the enemy uses our drums, as Dr. Amos Wilson said, to ride in his self-destructive message. That's all it is. It's just programming. It's programming our young women to see their vessel, their body, as a way to make a living, to make money. And it's programming young men to see each other as the enemy. This is the law of warfare, to divide and conquer. When you have a people divided, you can rule over that people. I'm hoping you're listening to what I'm saying, brothers, because when you look at your brother and you don't see your brother as a god, but you see him as an enemy, as a dog. Dog is God spelled backwards. And this is what they've done to us. And if that don't get you heated, then what will? So this whole thing with these pyramids and the discovery under the pyramids, we did that. That was built with our technology. Not his technology. His technology, you got his technology today, and it always fails you. You on a call and the call drops. You're on the internet, and if a cloud comes over, then you have a poor internet connection because it's not in harmony. It's not in harmony with nature. Nothing that they're doing is in harmony with nature. Everything that they've done, like I said, it's a rape culture. The whole culture is a rape culture. They take from the earth and don't give back. They take from people and don't give back. It's a toxic world. The water is toxic. The air is toxic. The food is toxic. The culture is toxic. Everything is toxic. There's no life in anything that they offer you. There's no life in anything that they offer themselves. And that's why they have built up a big war machine. And what most Caucasians don't recognize, and those Caucasian I'm talking about is those who have not, who have nothing, who still believe that for some reason, just because they're white, they're a part of the club. No, you're not. You're not a part of the club. They're trying to kill you too. You're not a part of the club. Because the system of white supremacy is a system of hierarchy. It's a system of those who have, as brother Dr. Ridgely said, who have a mentality of I'm better. And that means better than you poor whites. He's using you. Right now, he's using, especially you evangelical Christians. He got you thinking that they're the chosen people and that you should fight and die for them. As Chris Hedges talks about, they got you believing in a magic Jesus. It is what it is. That's so pitiful. You can read right in your book of Revelations, you evangelicals. Right there in Revelations 2, verse 9 and Revelations 3, verse 9. It's not talking about them. It's talking about the very people that you want to deny as being the chosen people. But your Messiah that you read about, he black. He not that guitar, stringy hair looking guy. White guy, he walking around in Palestine in Africa. Ain't no copper tone over there, no pH balance, lotion. No, he was jet black. He had hair like lamb's wool, you know, that kinky stuff. And he had skin like burnished brass. It didn't just stop there. It says, as though burnt in an oven. Not burnt up into ashes, which would be white, but burnt like it has soot on it. Do you know what the color of soot is? It's that jet black. You don't like that truth. But all those who don't like truth today are going to be removed. You shall know the truth, and the truth shall set you free. With that, thank you for watching. May God continue to bless you and your family with the light of truth and understanding. Keep on tuning in, brothers and sisters. We got some powerful guests coming on, as well as whatever commentary that I might have to, you know, help to wake us up, whatever effort, little effort that I can do to help wake us up to the time and what must be done, because we got to wake up now. You know, you just saw just a little bit of current events. You just saw Trump. He brought in refugees, right, seeking asylum from South Africa, Afrikaners, white Afrikaners. Rolled out the red carpet for him and everything. While Arabs in Iraq who helped American troops not only take down insurgents, but help them survive, their lives are still being threatened, and none of them are given asylum. Brothers and sisters, you got to see what's going on. Because I know that there's some of you who believe that America has your best interest. You believe that the economy is being restored and the jobs will come back to you. You believe that you're going to get justice with your black skin. Wake up. Stop being a fool. You know, Moses, he told them it's time to separate, but they wouldn't believe Moses. So God sent 10 plagues down on Pharaoh and Pharaoh's people, destroyed their economy. Right now, the economy of America is being destroyed by the weather alone. They're not telling you these things. They got you in the dark. So, thank you for watching. Subscribe to our channel. Pass this on to friends, family, and those that you may associate with, and let them know the time and what must be done. Assalamu alaikum.